This is kind of a strange idea, but I hope it works out. Welcome back to another video. Welcome if you're new. Thanks for joining. I'm Tristan. Bit of a different video today, and the first one in a series I'm going to start on my YouTube. So if you've come from my Twitch, you would have kind of seen the starts of this, but yeah, I'm pretty excited to bring a new concept to you based kind of around my legacy challenge and the world that those Sims live in. Every week I'm gonna rebuild one of the lots in the world, so kind of in any area, but you know, in the same world. So not a new concept, but one I'm excited to tackle. I want to make the world really interesting, so I want to have a lot of builds that might be, you know, a different style to what we expect for that kind of lot type. I want to have lots of character in the builds, and I want there to be, you know, a lot of interest in the gameplay added from these builds. Which is exciting, and I love that I'm doing it in the world that I play in, because it means I get to enjoy them all. If they're good, I'll obviously upload them to the gallery. You can find me on the gallery at Tris Sims. But yeah, I think most of it, I want it to have a bit of storytelling value around the Bland family. I think they're very interesting so far. They're obviously on Gen 2, so you know, as we move further and further, we'll uncover and be able to create more stories around them, which is really fun. So my first build is a vet and a dog park, and it is on top of a building, which I thought was kind of fun. So it's the lot that originally in San Myshuno had the gym that's at the base of the kind of 3 apartment towers, but still on top of a building. Originally, when I was kind of building this and thinking about it, it seemed really strange, but then thinking more about it, I don't think living in an apartment and owning a pet is that strange anymore. So the thought was, you know, jarring at first, but it actually kind of makes sense in a modern world. It is a super modern build, as you're kind of starting to see unfold, and a little bit different. It kind of looks a bit to me like my monument house build, which was a replica of a house in Joshua Tree, and this one was actually built from reference as well. I'll chuck a photo up now so you can have a look what the shell of the building was built from. It is an architectural firm, which is why it's such an interesting building that's in Kanazawa in Japan. Kanazawa? Or Kanagawa? One of the two. Anyway. It's in Japan, and it is an architectural firm, given the very interesting exterior to the building. But yeah, I thought I'd do it as a vet. I haven't replicated the original building at all inside or anything like that, but I kind of, you know, took that inspiration of that really angular geometric shape on the outside of the building, with that centerpiece being the balcony that's kind of enclosed but still able to be seen through with a tree inside. Getting the texture right was important, and you'll see me kind of fight with it a little bit here. I did have to use move objects quite a bit to achieve this, but I think it came out really nice. I really like the way that it kind of took shape as it started to make a bit of sense. I added a half wall up the top, just so it could have a really nice trimming and a little bit of an inset. Where as I get kind of right to the very end of the build, I add some solar panels and stuff, because I think that would make sense given the location of this lot. The tree does clip here, but just hold your horses if that hurts your feelings, because I do fix that up a lot later in the build. This little kind of tree enclosure is something I really love using. It is in debug, so you have to dig a little bit to get it, but it looks really nice. I think it really works in a lot more context than I think it was originally envisioned for. You'll notice here as well, with the branding of the vet, I kind of did iterate that a little bit. It changed towards the end to something that made a bit more sense, and it was a bit more noticeable that it was a vet, because as I kind of got further and further into building this really interesting kind of shell, that there would need to be a bit of signage to show that it's a vet, because that's probably not what you'd think it was at our first look or first glance. You'll see here I kind of started to shape the dog park I actually think this lot ended up looking the best at night. I think it's a really beautiful spot with the view and the kind of lights and the way that the interior and exterior lights kind of shine out of the building. I really loved the way that came together. You'll see here I start to shape the inside of the building, working out where the staircases and things will be. At this stage of the build, I was actually really unsure about how I would use the space. I obviously gave myself quite a bit more space than I ended up needing. So you'll notice, I think it's fairly soon in the build, I do block out a lot of that bottom level and just use it as kind of a small storage room with a garbage chute, which I think worked well because the second and third levels ended up being, fairly full, large, but fairly full. But that bottom level I didn't really have a use for, so I decided to kind of remove it as a playable area. I placed a few items down around here just to kind of help myself remember where things would go. This is my first time really putting in a lot of effort, I think, to building a community lot. I stick a lot to homes I stick a lot to building homes that I like the look of in real life and try and replicate them in the game, but I've never tackled a community lot, and this is not how I thought I would build a vet, but I'm really glad I did. You'll start to notice this is where the exterior of the building comes together a bit, and it makes a bit more sense as to where things are and where they aren't. So this is where I start to really brainstorm how I guess the traffic would flow through this building, where certain things should go, I think, I guess where it makes sense for things to go. And you'll notice the bathroom downstairs disappears and reappears and disappears and reappears as I kind of spitball with ideas on how to kind of use the space properly. I realized I probably in the waiting area, or what becomes the waiting area, would need a toilet for customers to use, and have a more substantial toilet and shower upstairs right next to that bigger room at the back, which will become the staff room later in the build. This build taught me a lot about stairs and how they interact with certain elements in the game, which was good because I don't often build multi-story buildings, to be honest, that are at all complex. I usually stick to kind of large single-story buildings, which definitely fit the vibe of what I usually build, but I chose to challenge myself a little bit here. I was actually really confused on how to use the space at the bottom of the building, the kind of lobby where the stairs start. And as you'll notice, I don't add much to it at all outside of another small planter box to add some visual interest inside that window that's on the front of the building. But yeah, I left that quite blank as just kind of a thoroughfare. This is where the dog park starts to come together. It does change a little bit. It was quite open, and then I realized on top of a building I'd probably want some sort of enclosure up there, so I do begin to fence it in and add some gates and things, which I think are pretty true to what a dog park looks like in Australia. I was quite happy with how this turned out, and I'd love to visit this dog park, to be honest. The dream life, honestly. Leave in the comments if there's a particular community lot you want me to tackle, a particular location you want me to upgrade, a type of community lot you want me to put my own spin on. I'm always looking for ideas. Obviously, I've got a few myself where I'll kind of go next with this, but I'd love to hear from you all and find out a bit more about what you want to see me build, what you want to see me upload. I do try and do some of these, or all of these actually, live on Twitch on Wednesdays and Thursdays each week. Obviously at the moment that's a little thrown around with all the public holidays and everything, but I do aim to get on at least twice a week and do some gameplay, but also pop these builds up and hear from you guys live, and that helps shape these weird and wonderful decisions that I like to make. Just adding some kind of terrain paint here. I think a dog park is usually a little more of a beaten track, so I wanted to make sure the dog park on top of this building was no different to that. I wanted it to look a little bit lived in. Now you see I'm adding some paint here, and I had a honestly strange idea at the start of building this, that I wanted all of it to be the same color, and it was this strange grey sponged stucco. I fixed that up more towards the end after I'd kind of gotten off stream, and I think a few days later was streaming again and realized it was all very one note, and it did look a lot more interesting at the end, which you'll see if you stick around. I think it made a lot of sense for the bathrooms to be fairly plain. I don't think in a vet you're going to have any sort of fancy bathroom or anything like that, so I just went with white tiles and white elements with a silver mirror. Here I'm building what's kind of like a manager's office, I guess, or an office where if I'm being honest, you'd probably be taken to get bad news delivered, which is a bit grim for a vet, but I think it made sense to have an office in there that the Sims could work in. I did repeat with posters a lot throughout the vet, but I think the posters they have for this kind of build are so funny and so realistic, so I just kind of used them wherever. I mean, you can't see them all at the same time, so I don't think it really matters, does it? So this is where everything started to come together a little more. This is where I gave it a few days and kind of came back to it and realized, I needed it to look a little bit more notably like a vet. So I added some accents to the outside of the building to add visual interest, like these two planter boxes up the front. The waiting room I kind of wiped out and did again, and you'll notice if you kind of look closely, I'd added some kind of wooden panelled walls and things like that inside of this off the stream to try and give it a little bit more texture and a bit more interest on the inside, which I think was a really good move. I think it ended up looking a lot better. I do also tweak with a lot of the decor that I added, so a few things on the walls that didn't make sense I did change. Now, please ignore here the strange lighting issue that's going on. I've got Sims that are glowing. I've got pets that are glowing. I was trying to do this live on stream, and it was the most frustrating thing. If you know how to fix that, please let me know in the comments, because this was so painful. I'm trying to keep things rolling along, but also fix the Sims that were glowing everywhere, which was so weird. And I noticed when I moved some of these saucer downlights around, they would almost be stopped by invisible walls and things that were around. So yeah, if you let me know, please comment, because I'd love to know how to fix that. Because it did play around when I was trying to shoot the kind of fly around video as well. It did make things interesting. We got there, but it made it very interesting to try and film. I added, a little area for your pets to kind of relax. I think if I don't love going to the doctor, so I feel like a pet doesn't either. So a bed and a little cat tree was kind of nice. And it was good because coming in fresh, I was able to add a lot of meaningful clutter and stuff as well that made sense to the story of the build. It was quite funny. I don't think I've visited a vet lot during gameplay before. I kind of played for quite a long time. I played The Sims 4 for quite a long time without any DLC or very limited DLC, and then recently decided to add almost all of the gameplay DLC and all of the build by DLC. So having all of those kind of items and things was one thing, but then the gameplay is a whole other thing, which I haven't explored a lot of. I'm in my Legacy Challenge I'm going to work through, and I am moving that family around, which I know is not traditional Legacy gameplay, but that's more so I can experience all those different gameplay elements and things. My family currently live in Henford-on-Bagley. They moved from Strangerville, where we completed the gameplay and the story of that, which was a lot of fun. And yeah, so we've got the Legacy heir, who's an animal lover, hence building a vet, which has turned out to be way too expensive for her. But yeah, so I kind of will move through that way, so it makes a bit of sense as to where I'm going to go next in terms of builds and gameplay at the same time. You'll see here I started to add some different colors and paints and things, which I think made it a bit easier to look at and a bit less same as you move kind of around the build. So I was doing a bit of playtesting because I wasn't sure with the way I'd jammed some of the things in that it would make a lot of sense. Something else I've realized after the build is I've popped the check-in desk on the inside of the admin counter, which doesn't work in gameplay, but I will fix that before I upload it to the gallery. One area I think did come together really well the first time was the break room. I really love the way that this looks. I think it would be a really nice place to be, and I dream of having this break room. I don't think it's at all in a realistic spot to where a break room would be, and if you do have a break room that's got that kind of view, I'm very jealous of you. It looks very nice. I thought it made a lot of sense to have like a little waiting room table with books. I feel like when you're in a waiting room, there's usually a table full of magazines that you can kind of peruse, and they're usually not relevant to where you are at all, but they are kind of funny to pass the time. So you can see those glowing Sims. I have no idea how to fix it. It's so annoying. And yeah, this is where I kind of made it a little more modern in the upstairs waiting room as well. I thought it made sense in the vet's office or their exam room. I guess their office and their exam room, they function as both, to have a shelf of books. I feel like when you're dealing with so many species, you're going to be referencing your books and things all the time. So I wanted to kind of add one of those into the main vet's office. My kind of idea with the two vets offices originally was a dog one and a cat one, but then I realized gameplay wise that doesn't work, and I got annoyed when there was a cat in the dog examination room. So I think it's going to be more like a junior vet and a senior vet, and then upstairs you've got a surgery and a pharmacy. This was annoying. The walling didn't meet up from the top and the bottom level, so I just left them different because that would drive my OCD wild. And I finished off the build with some solar panels on top because I think that makes a lot of sense for something that's on top of a building, and it makes it a little more eco. I think we can do a lot to try and save the Earth's resources, so why not do it in The Sims? But yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this speed build. Follow me on here. Follow me on Twitch at the same handle. I'm also on TikTok if you're that way inclined. I post some short form videos on there, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, I'll leave you guys to it. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.